Thank you for joining us for this look at some of the best stories from KPBS News this week. I'm John Carroll. Coming up, more than an inconvenience. For those with mobility issues, an elevator is essential. We follow up with some downtown residents who spent months trying to get theirs fixed. A new safe parking lot is coming to San Diego, and it's the biggest one yet. See how a space near the airport is being put to use. And the latest in our Hidden San Diego series. Maya Trabulsi takes us to the Welburn Gourd Farm in North County. We start with a new twist in the legal fight over last year's flooding. The city of San Diego is countersuing 11 Southcrest property owners. An attorney for the flood victims tells Alexander Nguyen it's an intimidation tactic.
This is a message the city is sending, is that if you come after us, we're coming after you.
Evan Walker represents Charles and Patricia Sloan, who own this property on South 41st Street. They are part of the 53 lawsuits against the city over last year's devastating January 22nd flood. Now, they are among the 11 parties being countersued by the city.
It was a surprise to us.
Walker says the city could countersue more people.
What we're seeing is an intimidation, retaliation tactic by the city that they may hope to scare some of these other flood victims from moving forward with this lawsuit.
Behind me is Joyous Creek, and as you can see, it is quite a ways away from homes here. But in the cross-complaint, the city says the property owners have a responsibility to clean up their property to prevent flood damage. In a statement, the city attorney's office says these property owners either have maintenance responsibilities for drainage facilities on their properties or took actions that might have diverted or increased stormwater runoff.
The problem is the channel over here.
Rick Corpus is among the more than 1,500 residents suing the city over the flood.
If your channel's plugged up, everything out here, even people's neighborhoods are going to get all flooded, you know?
Greg Montoya lives next to the creek. There are still visible signs from the flood last year.
You can see the water mark right there. You see it right there?
Montoya says he's been after the city to clean up the creek for years.
I've got hundreds and hundreds of emails and documentation telling them to fix problems in this area, and they don't. But yet the city will try to spend millions and millions of dollars to get themselves out of a liability they know they're liable for.
Montoya and Corpus are not parties to the countersuit. The city says it is investigating potential third parties' responsibility in these lawsuits and is committed to getting a just outcome for all parties involved. Alexander Nguyen, KPBS News.
Residents in Tierra Santa are still recovering from last week's plane crash. These events are rare, but sometimes it may feel like San Diego sees more than its fair share. KPBS military reporter Andrew Dyer says despite appearances, flying remains among the safest ways to travel.
There's a cliche in the news industry. They don't write about the planes that land. What that means is plane crashes are news in part because they're rare, even if it doesn't always feel that way. And in many ways, the history of San Diego is tied in part to the history of aviation.
So, our history, of course, in aviation is phenomenally long.
Jim Kidrick is the president and CEO of the San Diego Air and Space Museum. He says manned flight has been happening in San Diego since 1911. And although San Diego International Airport has just one runway, civil aviation thrives here.
Well, it's actually pretty significant. We have a number of airports. We have Palomar, we have Brown Field down south. We have Montgomery Field. We have Gillespie. We even have an airfield up in Ramona.
Add to the mix Navy airfields in Coronado and Imperial Beach, along with Marine air stations at Miramar and Camp Pendleton, and it makes for some pretty busy skies.
It is busy, but it's not intolerable. It's not something that is out of control. It's the airspace is well controlled. The skies are busy, but the skies are also very, very safe.
Of course, accidents do happen, most notable among them the PSA air disaster of 1978. A Boeing 727 collided midair with the Cessna 172 over North Park. It crashed into the neighborhood, destroying or damaging 22 homes. 135 people on board the Boeing were killed, as were both Cessna pilots, and 7 people on the ground. And in 2008, a Marine FA-18 Hornet trying to make an emergency landing at Miramar crashed into homes in University City, killing 4. Kidrick says air travel in the U.S. and over San Diego is safe.
You're more liable to be in an accident in a car and hurt or killed than you are in an airplane, any airplane. Every aircraft accident gets a ton of media. It's just the way it is.
It's safe because of the systems in place, from air traffic control to maintenance to training.
Certainly, we want to maintain the highest standards of training for those that fly those airplanes and the air traffic controllers. And as long as we maintain the standards very, very high.
Andrew Dyer, KPBS News.
Imagine living in a 15-story building where the elevators rarely work. Residents of an affordable housing community in the East Village say that's been their situation until recently. They told me they hope their elevator nightmare is over.
1, 2, 3.
When St. Teresa of Calcutta Villa opened in early 2022, it was hailed as a symbol of hope by Father Joe's president and CEO, Deacon Jim Vargas. I was there with a photographer that day, and the facility was impressive. 407 units of affordable housing for San Diegans transitioning out of homelessness. A plaza on the 3rd floor, open-air decks on other floors, a nice place to welcome more than 400 people to a new home, a place where they could connect with services.
Attention, an emergency has been reported.
But residents say it wasn't long before all that hope and promise descended into something quite different, a building that was not properly maintained, and at the center of it all, the bank of 3 elevators. These pictures of the non-functioning elevators were provided to us by a resident.
I'm not supposed to use the stairs. I'm not supposed to lift anything over 5 pounds. I have severe degenerative disc disease.
That's Christina Ennis. She goes by her middle name, Maria. Ennis was one of the first residents of St. Teresa. She moved here in February of 2022. We first met her in July of 2023 when she and fellow resident Maurice Truhl got a lawyer and brought a lawsuit against Father Joe's and the company that runs the place, known as Commercial and 14th LLC.
There's many more people a lot worse off than I am that live in this building, people in wheelchairs and walkers and canes, all the way up to the 15th floor.
It's been kind of difficult because I like to come and go like I want to.
I have missed appointments because the elevators have been down.
We met Army vet Jimmy Williams when we visited the building last year. Williams uses a wheelchair. Nevertheless, building management placed him in a 4th floor apartment.
I don't think they care about us. That's what I'm thinking, because if they did, everybody that has walkers and wheelchairs automatically should be on the 1st floor. But being on the 4th floor and 3rd floor, we can't get out. And we're gonna die.
The allegations from Jimmy Williams, Maria Ennis, and Maurice Truhl were confirmed by Cal OSHA's elevator unit. In an email to KPBS, Cal OSHA told us they'd gotten confidential complaints in 2023 and 2024. They said when their inspectors went into the building, they found the elevators to be out of service for repair and/or maintenance. But Cal OSHA's elevator unit could not require the owners to get the elevators working again.
This is a violation of the fair housing laws that require access.
Enter attorney Ann Menashe. She's a longtime civil rights lawyer. She calls herself a bulldog for justice. She took up the case.
And constant breakdowns, either one working, 2 working, or none working, which was disastrous for people, including Michael Mendez, one of the plaintiffs, who ended up being stuck out of his apartment for hours, ended up in the hospital. I mean, just one disaster after another. And that is so incredibly irresponsible to not put the money in to have proper maintenance of elevators.
Menashe filed her lawsuit in July of 2023. At that time, Father Joe's said they couldn't talk about pending litigation, but they did provide a statement which said in part, FJV has an internal complaint process to remedy structural or maintenance issues residents may discover. And now, in 2025, there is a settlement. Building management is being compelled to fix the elevators and to keep them running.
And we have a mechanism in place with the court for 2 years that there'll be a court monitoring, and we can go to the judge if there's a problem that's not being handled properly. So we have that mechanism. There are also going to be quarterly meetings So we are going to stay on top of it.
Now that the lawsuit is settled, we thought Father Joe's would be eager to be interviewed on the matter. I spoke on the phone with Father Joe's president and CEO, Deacon Jim Vargas, and he confirmed to me that he was aware the litigation had been resolved. He said he'd direct their media relations company, Mixty, to reach out to me. In fact, a public relations strategist there, Byron Kimball, did reach out. In an email, he said this is an active case and Father Joe's is not at liberty to comment on the proceedings. Knowing the case had been settled, I responded with that fact and asked if perhaps Kimball was referring to a different lawsuit. He responded that he was aware of the current situation and that, quote, despite all that, Father Joe's Villages is not able to discuss this case or its proceedings at this time. We can't grant you an interview. I asked why they would not provide someone for an interview or even a statement. I never heard back. I've also tried calling and texting Deacon Vargas again. I have not received a response. I also reached out to the law firm that represented the building management company, 14th and Commercial LLC. I didn't get a response from them either. The lack of response from Father Joe's and the law firm aside, residents Maria Ennis and Maurice Truel are cautiously optimistic.
They've been a lot nicer now that things have been tightening up and the elevators have been fixed a lot more lately. Now that everything's coming together, there's a lot less tension in the building with residents and management and everything.
That's great because it's so many people in here that need things to work for them, especially when people that want to get out. You know what I'm saying? If the elevators don't work, it's difficult for people to come out and enjoy this weather. You know what I'm saying? This is a great thing.
A great thing that's now under court order to stay that way. Now, I am staying in touch with attorney Ann Menashe, and if the judge's order isn't being followed at any point, you can expect to see a follow-up story. If that happens, we'll give Father Joe's, of course, another opportunity to weigh in on the matter. We're also hearing from residents about other problems with that relatively new building. We'll keep our eye on that possible story as well. There will soon be another place for San Diegans without permanent housing to stay overnight in their vehicles. KPBS reporter Jacob Ayer has an update on the Barracks site in Point Loma.
Nearby the San Diego airport, the city of San Diego is getting ready to open its 5th safe parking lot site to help homeless San Diegans find a safe place to sleep overnight in their vehicles. And this one is the biggest one yet. The 190-space lot has areas reserved for RVs and oversized vehicles. Participants will receive help with housing, medical issues, and signing up for government assistance programs. Jewish Family Service will operate this site in addition to 4 others across the city.
Safe parking is one of our most successful interventions. Typically these are first-time homeless, and it's a program for individuals living out of their vehicles. So we see a lot of seniors, a lot of families, young professionals.
Kota Sizer leads the city's community engagement effort for the soon-to-open Barracks safe parking site.
We'll nearly double our entire system's capacity. We're repurposing city-owned land that was formerly part of NTC Naval Base, was used by SDPD and SD Fire for several years, but then has sat pretty much abandoned and unused for several years.
The city expects the site to open by the end of this month. It also has an end date.
It is slated for the Pure Water project in 2029. However, we didn't really have an interim use in the meantime, and so we took advantage of city-owned land.
Some neighbors have raised health and safety concerns about the safe parking lot. Real estate developer McMillan NTC sued the California Coastal Commission, who approved the city's permit application, to stop the project. They argue that homeless parking, sheltering, and services are not legally permissible on the site, and that the city lacks a conditional use permit for the project. That case goes to trial in February. In the meantime, when it opens,
Barracks will be an overnight-only lot. It'll be operating from 6 p.m. to 7 a.m. And during those overnight hours, you have on-site security, on-site JFS staff.
Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
Sign up for our newsletters and get a list of our most popular stories. Here are some from this week. Pope Leo makes his first U.S. bishop appointment right here in San Diego. San Diego could soon allow buying and selling ADUs. And a family ordeal highlights the importance of habeas corpus in immigration cases. Getting parents involved in their children's education can help improve grades and attendance. Education leaders in the South Bay say language barriers and fears about federal immigration policies can make parents reluctant to participate. Education reporter Katie Anastas has more from KPBS's latest Community Conversation.
This month, KPBS invited education advocates, teachers, and students to discuss education in the South Bay. Many say getting parents involved in the school system can be a challenge.
There are IEPs, 504s, what's a school site council, what's a PTA, what is LCAP, what is FAFSA, what is the DREAM Act?
Monica Griego is the executive director of the Parent Institute for Quality Education, or PIQUE. They offer workshops for parents on helping their kids with schoolwork and navigating the educational system.
Parents need to be empowered to say, can you tell me what that stands for? Can you explain what you meant by that? Because if they don't know the lingo, if they're not speaking that language, they can't participate in that conversation.
Many of the parents they work with are English language learners and immigrants. Lately, it's been harder to tell them about their programs. Griego says schools have become hesitant to share class rosters and parent contact information because of federal immigration policies. Providing childcare and meals at evening events can help schools bring more parents in.
We are seeing more of this now due to the community school grants that a lot of our districts have received.
Vanessa Barrera is the president of the South Bay Union School District's Teachers Union. She says other ways South Bay districts can boost attendance and family engagement include reconsidering their calendars.
Our school year starts in July, and what happens is the traditional vacation time is during that July and August. So we see a lot of students who don't start the school year when we start, and instead we get a big flux of students that are registering in September.
Cross-border students face additional challenges. Isabela Barajas started crossing the border every day during her senior year of high school. She says it was up to her to explain her new school system to her parents.
Parents don't know what is going on. They're just open to a whole new world and whole new concepts, and it's so hard for them to understand what you're doing, and as a student to explain to them, it's so hard. And then translate everything to Spanish, it's also honestly tiring.
The Transfronterizo Institute helps students like her apply for financial aid and prepare for college. She says they provided guidance she couldn't find at her school. Griego with PIQUE says school districts need to invest in parent engagement efforts now more than ever.
There are a lot of incredible organizations that are on the ground doing incredible things for students, but if like any tool, it's not being used, it's not that useful to the families.
She says helping parents get involved is key to their kids' success. Katie Anastas, KPBS News.
Spotify is the largest music streaming platform in the U.S. For a monthly fee, listeners gain access to millions of songs. But what does that mean for an artist trying to make a living? On a recent episode of The Finest, host Julia Dixon Evans asks that question of a local musician.
Hold tight, slow dancing in the middle of the subway.
Juliana Zachariou has experienced what many artists dream of, a hit song. Her 2018 track, Subway Song, has racked up more than 5 million streams on Spotify. That's a huge number. So we asked passersby, how much money do you think a musician earns from that?
$500,000.
Like $700,000? Somewhere around $300,000 to $500,000.
$5 million.
I don't know, maybe like 300,000. Yeah, that's my guess.
I asked Zachariou to calculate what she earned from Subway Song at a rate of about 0.3 cents per stream.
I've made $15,000 on it over 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
Not great. Honestly, doing that math in front of you just makes me so angry and emotional. I think that's why I don't engage with it too often, because it's so heartbreaking. And I had the luck of getting one song, into those numbers. It's really hard to get those numbers. It's the shooting star kind of thing. And I got to experience that in my lifetime as an artist, and I'm nowhere closer to being stable financially.
Zachariou performs June 7th at the North Park Music Festival, and you can hear more of her story on The Finest, wherever you get your podcasts. Julia Dixon-Evans, KPBS News.
The first 6 episodes of The Finest are out now. You can also stream the podcast at the KPBS YouTube page. When you think of a gourd, do you think squash or pumpkin? How about musical instrument, storage vessel, or handmade art? Maya Trabulsi took a trip to the Welburn Gourd Farm with KPBS Explores Hidden San Diego and learned how the new owners honor the culturally significant fruit.
You can hear that there's a gourd farm in Fallbrook, but it's another thing to visit it and it just blow your mind with how amazing it is. It really just has an energy of itself. My name is Jessica Johnson. I run the brand Hidden San Diego, which covers all unique places throughout all of San Diego County. The Welburn Gourd Farm is located in an area called Deluz, which is part of Fallbrook, but this area is unlike anywhere else that I've ever been to in San Diego County.
We jumped in the deep end.
We became gourd farmers.
We became gourd farmers.
And what is a gourd is the biggest question we get now. My name's Jamie Weber.
And I'm Daniel Mole, and we own Welburn Gourd Farm.
We are the largest gourd farm in the world. We produce over 300,000 gourds a year, and a big part of that is due to our beautiful climate and our soil conditions.
Gourds are quite ancient. People use them, across many cultures around the world. Some are used for musical instruments, some are used for storing grains or liquids, some are used for decorating, ceremonial purposes. A lot of our gourds wind up in Hawaii. So there was a strong connection with this farm and the hula community in Hawaii, and so they come and they make ipuhekes out of them.
And the art community is very significant here too. You can do any art medium on a gourd. You can cut, you can burn, you can paint, you can weave. It's almost unlimited canvas for art.
So when you look around here, you see gourds all different sizes, and these look like they're the smallest ones. They're like musical instruments.
Yeah.
Or like baby rattles.
Yeah, nature always provides, right?
Nature always provides.
I know that the Native Americans use them for rattles, instruments, and jewelry. In Hawaii, they use them for drums. In Peru, which I know that we even do that here because I have friends that do it, but they drink their yerba mate out of it. And then I was told at Renaissance festivals, they sometimes use them as water bottles, which you can see how it could totally be used as one. I want one for a water bottle now.
Actually, inside the store, I saw one being used as a soap dispenser
I
as
got
well.
one.
Okay.
I bought one
Did you
already.
really?
Yes.
Okay.
We have a little birdhouse. So all they did was cut a little hole right out in the center, and it's a perfect home for a bird.
It's 120 acres, and we have our miniature animal barn in the back that people love to engage with. We have a beautiful new organic vegetable garden, and we have 4 short-term rentals on the property that if you want to stay on the farm and see what it's like.
Believe it or not, this thriving garden was actually a parking lot a year ago. And today they have the man behind all of this, Andrew Beatty, who is a world-renowned biodynamic farmer.
It's all about sustainability. This is my first gourd farm. My name is Andrew Beatty, and I'm the consultant here at Welburn Gourd Farm.
Do you enjoy the challenge of working with them?
For sure. Yeah, you have to be challenged. And then that was the main kind of design point of the garden, was how do we, respect the history of the Welburn Gourd Farm and bring that into a new life.
So you're modernizing an ancient way of farming a gourd.
Yeah, exactly. Through the use of organic and biodynamic farming practices.
So we are going to see the animals now. This is the part that I was most excited about.
Yeah. Is this a donkey? And 2 donkeys? And ponies, a pig, goats. And there's even some kittens hiding inside.
Oh, you got a pig flop.
This chicken loves love. Just letting me get in.
You found the friendliest chicken on earth, Jessica.
Just letting you pet it.
I think one of the most interesting things was it was homesteaded in 1880 and was run by really one family until 2024. And the Garnsey family was next to the Day family, and they have a cemetery here on the property that everyone who has operated this farm is buried on this farm. It's a very unique piece of history.
So this is not something that you would usually find at a farm, but very fascinating that it is here. Tell us about this.
So this is the graveyard for the Garnsey family, who were the original farm owners of this land.
Yeah.
And we have a ton of family members buried here. And you can just imagine how much they must have lovingly tended to this land, fallen in love with the land to want to be buried here.
What are some dates that you see on those gravestones?
So right off the bat, I see 1888, to 1889.
Oh, okay, so that was a baby there.
So this expansive field is actually where the gourds all grow, and they pull them before the first frost, and then they let them slowly dry, which is crazy because they have to hand turn them throughout each week or however long so they don't grow mold.
So they actually turn all of these by hand, manual labor,
Yes.
to make sure that no rotting is happening. That's incredible. Okay, Jessica, we're gonna help them out a little bit. Let's turn a couple of these gourds. Oh, they're still heavy, so they're not completely dried. You can tell. Yeah. Okay. Big difference. So, all right, we've done our work. Maybe one more. Oh, this one, maybe ready. Maybe ready.
We had no idea what gourds were.
We didn't.
I will tell you that when you go to a cocktail party and someone says, "What do you do for a living?" and you say, "I'm a gourd farmer," it begs a follow-up question.
Never know what you're going to find in this county. We hope you enjoyed this look at KPBS News this week. I'm John Carroll. Thank you so much for joining us.